Hello everyone, onegaishimasu. Hope everyone's doing well. This morning, I'll read you the principle of non-dissension. There is no conflict in the absolute universe. Conflict arises only in the relative world. If we are to lead others, we must unify mind and body and practice the principles of the universe. Do not say that this is a world of survival of the fittest, where the stronger prey upon the weaker. The true way to peace is exactly the same as the principle of non-dissension. This morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, we're looking at the fourth principle of the 5 principles of Shinshin Tutsu Aikido. That fourth principle is that we put ourselves in the position or place of our partner or some opposing force. Or I should say some apparently opposing force. In the world where we grew up, we're basically provided with 2 options whenever we're confronted with some kind of conflict, some kind of challenge. One of them is, of course, resistance, and the other one is acquiescence. Resistance or acquiescence. Resistance means meeting force with force and engaging in conflict with the person that's challenging us. Acquiescence means bottling up that resistance within us and living with the conflict as a giant burning fire in our belly. Not very good options. Well, sooner or later, as a human being, we're going to come to the point of dreaming of, wishing for, searching out a third way, another option, something other than that which promotes conflict. That option, if you search far enough, you might find Aikido, and in Aikido, the way to union with Ki of the universe. That third option is always, we call connection, or joining together with the other person, putting yourself in the place of your partner. Of course, important point here is it doesn't mean that you are agreeing with the other partner's position, which may be crazy, or may be harmful, or may be just the opposite of the position you happen to hold. We're not clinging to our position, so we're not going to resist, and we're not judging or criticizing the other person's position either. So what are we joining with? We're not joining with their relative mind. We're not making one with their ego. We're honoring their humanity. We're going to the part of them that is one with us. In daily life, of course, that means recognizing and embracing their highest qualities. On the mat, it means going directly to the center of that person that is opposing us or challenging us, moving into the center of that person, joining with them, and moving together from there on. This is connection. So we practice doing this with our techniques and with all of our other activities in Aikido, and particularly the activities that we have with our teacher. We come to Aikido because we like this teaching. It might be that we like this particular teacher. We might not even know this teacher when we come. Excuse me. The teacher, soon enough, we find out that the teacher's job through the techniques and through the general teaching principles is to challenge within us that part of us that wants to resist or acquiesce. We don't want you to resist us as a teacher. The teaching doesn't encourage that. We don't want you to acquiesce. I'm always telling you, please don't believe anything I say, but find out for yourself. We don't want a bunch of acquiescent people out there. But we also don't want a whole bunch of resistance fighting against itself and getting nowhere. The whole point of us joining together like this is for all of us to be following this principle. I'm required to do it with you. You're required to do it with me. I polish you, you polish me. So we're partners in this effort. So we recognize when we come to Aikido and enlist the help of a teacher that we have a teacher within us, that we have a higher nature, that we are a true, deserving part of humanity. And the part of us that is tending to resist or to collapse and give up, to acquiesce, is not the part of us that we want to strengthen. The humanity, the strength, the courage, the insight is the part of us. Our own teacher we want to strengthen. So the teacher we meet is speaking to the teacher within us to support that part of us and strengthen that part of us and give us the courage to risk going to the very center and embracing what we might on the surface completely disagree with. This is the principle of non-dissension. And this is what these 5 principles of Shinjin Tuitsu Aikido represent in us. All right. Let's begin with some key breathing. All right, let's close our eyes. Of course, we are all unlimited universal beings. But at least for this lifetime, we've all agreed to take on this body and more limited goals and activities. And the one that is temporarily in charge of those limited goals and activities we call small mind. And the universal being, or unlimited one, we call universal mind. You might find this a useful way to look at yourself, because the drama that's being played out in the dojo or in this class or outside of yourself with your family and at work is always the same drama that's being acted out within you. And it represents what's happening within each of us, between the small mind and your universal mind. You might think of the small mind as a student that's growing into the position of teacher, and the universal mind of being already the teacher, the mature, loving, benevolent, supportive part of ourselves. We all know that part, don't we? And we all know the one who's in charge of self-acquisition and right action in daily life. And we want to always be guided by the mature side of ourselves. not just our whimsical, limited, relative nature. But we need them both, of course. They ultimately must become one. Okay, so if you have some comment or question, I'd love to hear it. I'd appreciate it if you would speak up. Thank you.
Sensei, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, please elaborate on the last phrase you used was small mind and universal mind, and then you said, oh, ultimately they must become one.
So I think a better way to say that, thank you, might be, of course, they're already one. There is no separation. But ultimately, we grow to understand them, see them, experience them as one. We are not broken into pieces. But there is a part of us, like I said, that we are temporarily responsible for a lot of finite activities. And hopefully, all of those activities are pointing toward a loving resolution of this separation, this sense of separation within us. And like I said, we're acting out this trauma all the time outside of us, with the difference between separation and unification with other people, sometimes with individuals, sometimes with other groups, sometimes countries, and sometimes all of humanity, depending on our ability to invite. You know, I mean, that's what these 5 principles are all about. Of course, there are 5 principles of how to perform a technique in Aikido, but all of these techniques are designed in order to awaken us to this dichotomy that exists between an apparent, separate sense of self that gets itself constantly into struggles and conflicts with other people and other things that are existing. And then this somehow, this umbrella being, this overlooking, mature, loving, compassionate, benevolent being that's helping us learn to make our activities support this ultimate unification, this experience of unification. It says outrightly in Aikido that that's what our goal is. Doi Sensei says the purpose of our practice is to become one with the universe, become one. So, this is our activity on earth. This is what we're engaged in. And the more we can bring it toward this mature realization, the more useful we'll be as human beings and the more complete we will feel in our lives. Okay? Thank you for asking. Okay, someone else. So I'm going to call on somebody because no one is asking. So I'd like to hear Tracy Reasoner Sensei say something to us about this. And if you have a question, you're free to ask, but I'd love to hear any comment you might have.
Good morning, Sensei.
Good morning. Nice to
Uh,
see you.
the question I would have is uh, you said there's 2 approaches, but I remember you always talking about 3 approaches by either conflicting with a person, or collapsing, or being one with the person. But I didn't hear you talk about the third the third option.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. So, what I basically presented in the beginning of this was we are generally offered by the world two responses to challenge: resistance or acquiescence, which means, you know, powerful, trying to get our way, powerfully trying to get our way with any source of power that we have, be it our body or our money or our personality, our education, whatever we can use, we try to use to get our way, to make the other person agree with us. Or we can acquiesce. We can just give up and pray to God that the person will go away, or that key of the universe will somehow unify this person and make us free of this responsibility. But no, we all have. And when we come to Aikido, we learn about, we go in search of and then learn about the third way, which is always connection, which is always how, and that's what these 5 principles are representing. How to discover the third way, how to live this third way, how to avoid just resisting, how to avoid just acquiescing, and how to live these principles in terms of how to connect with the other person. And that's just, by the way, a practice session for learning how to connect with ourselves. That's why at the end I brought up these 2 parts of ourself. That there is a teacher and there is a student. There is a universal being and there is a limited being, an unlimited and a limited being. That's what we're acting out in daily life all day long, with every situation we find ourselves in, with every student we see, with every teacher we see, with every friend we see, with every coworker we see. We're always being presented with the same opportunity. And it's just a drama that's being acted out in front of us to help us understand and come to a greater understanding of, greater experience of universal being. Hence, Toi Sensei says, the purpose of our practice is to be one with the universe.
And how would you use the third option to handle somebody who's passive aggressive?
Someone who's passive aggressive,
Yeah.
Is kind of, that's like a combination of A and B, isn't it? It's sort of using power, but using acquiescence, a faux acquiescence. But underneath there, they're working on you all the time. So that's a good question. But of course, we handle it the same way we handle ourselves, because we are the worst passive aggressive creatures we know within ourselves, right? In other words, our ego, our small self, is always looking for ways to assert itself. And it's also often held back by the superego and not allowed to assert itself. So it becomes passive aggressive. And that's a mode of being, if you can understand, if everybody gets what I'm saying here. This is a mode of being that is common and abiding in us all the time, that we have to notice. And so someone is brought to us like that, it's our chance to recognize that within ourselves. So, basically what I'm saying here, it's not new, it's an old story. Every teacher that ever lived said the same thing. And that's what all the teaching is about. It's that everything that we're faced with in our daily lives this is a mirror universe. It's a reflection of ourselves. It's a teaching. Every moment is a teaching moment. Every moment is a moment for us to awaken to the mirror, to see that instead of striking out against that, we invite it in. we become one with it. We accept it because we see there's much deeper, greater, stronger activity going on underneath this, which is always to our benefit. That's why we say, with every problem there's an opportunity. That's basically what we're saying. Now, we mean a relative way to victory, but that's not ultimately what every moment is. That's not ultimately what every challenge is. Every challenge is an opportunity for us to awaken to our ultimate purpose, which I'm repeating here again and again, is the way to union with Key of the Universe. Aikido. Thank you. That was a great question.
Yes, I think.
All right. So, looks like we're just about done. Is there anything anyone else would like to say?
Yes, one comment, Sensei,
Yes.
about the invitation and connection. Is it about the same way of sending out an invitation or connecting the same way? Would you describe that?
Maybe is that I'm not quite clear what you're asking.
Right. When we connect with being in place of someone else and connecting with them, are we sending an invitation for them, or are we the inviter?
I think we're being invited. I think when someone challenges us, that is an invitation for us to see ourselves in a new light. It's an opportunity for us to practice Shinshin Tuitsu Aikido in every moment. So we have to get used to the fact of not being the one in charge. Yes, it's all about us, but the universe is in charge. Everything is unified. So everything is acting in our benefit, ultimately, in every moment. It often, quite usually, does not look like it is acting in our benefit because we're looking at it through a very small, limited lens, the lens of the small mind. But once we can stand back and look from universal position, so seeing the big picture, seeing the long term, seeing the greater good, then we see, everything is an invitation for me to be this way.
Thank you, Sensei.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. See you. Aloha.